Hey homies, I want to share something with you today. A lot of people have been really positive about leaving comments and how they've received my videos. And as appreciative of that as I am, it's actually kind of worrying because I don't make my videos just so that people in the know can like them. That's kind of masturbatory, and I don't want to do that. I mean, anyone who was actually sharing anything of note in this world, it pissed this world off. You get what I'm saying? And so I got something for you that's probably not gonna make a lot of people happy, but it needs to be said, and it needs to be shown. So I'm gonna try to do that today. So firstly, I ask that you leave your political thinking outside the door for this one. Now, I'm not saying don't be aware of the political paradigm and such, but don't react in a knee-jerk way to the things I point out, okay? I'm trying to point to a bigger picture here, and people who stubbornly remain within the sandbox of the approved paradigm will not see what I'm getting at, no matter how hard they go in any direction. Not only that, but any fringe political movement, any third way, any of this stuff is still playing within the sandbox. And, okay, let me try to explain. How many of you know what the Groypers are? You know, this movement of relatively youngish people who think Pepe hats are real cool, they think Trump is awesome or something, and they know about Israel, and they bother Charlie Kirk by asking him questions that Charlie Kirk is paid to not answer. Well, what else do the Groypers do? A lot of them are really, really into the Catholic Church. They think it's based. Yeah, man, the Vatican is based, bro. Shit. Years ago, I started looking into who controlled what in regards to big business and money in the US and much of the world. And believe me, I've seen many an early life section of note on Wikipedia, if you get what I mean. I'm not blind to that group, that tribe, okay? In fact, when people used to bring up the Vatican and their deeds and the Jesuits to me, I used to feel like they were taking something away from me. By almost like they were trying to replace what I knew to be true about a certain group by filling that void with the Vatican. And I would get mad and angry and say, no man, it's just that one group, it's just that one tribe. Well, it isn't that simple. And I know a lot of people that can't let that go. And it's pretty sad to see, for a number of reasons, not the least of which is the fact that by holding on to that, by thinking it's just this one group of people, and that we're going to save the world by getting rid of them, you're literally playing into end times prophecy. You're playing into a trap that's been spraying for a very long time. And if you're one of those people who thinks the Vatican is based, bro, you want new crusades now, man, you're being set up to be in the Antichrist army. That's not good. Okay, for one, the Catholic Church, the top of it anyway, I don't mean every Catholic, has been laying the groundwork for some of this stuff for a number of years. The Catholic Church has been talking about how it would gladly baptize an alien. It's a very, should be a big red flag to anyone who knows this stuff. Almost a year ago today, the Vatican, with Pope Francis, announced a statement of solidarity with the World Economic Forum. It's about as evil as it gets. Like I said in my last video, I've dug into the money behind the Vatican and I saw what they do with their investment portfolio, and it was disturbing and alarming. In December of 2020, the Vatican announced inclusive capitalism in partnership with the World Economic Forum. This was literally the Vatican making an announcement alongside a Rothschild, okay? And now what I see happening is the institution as a whole, it's being carved out from the inside. And people like Francis and his master are sitting there saying, yes, we'll allow the Catholic Church to be like a shell for this new evil institution that's going to roll out hardcore. And you guys know that I rag on the left a lot, that I'm not, naturally sympathetic to left-wing ideas. And I'm keenly aware of, and I'm sure many of you are too, a lot of the aggravating and obvious flaws with left-wing thinking. But that doesn't mean the right has the answer either. I think a lot about the Russians during World War II, how in a pinch Stalin said, look guys, I know we've put tons of you into prison camps, but if you come out now and fight for your country, for me, honorably, we'll forgive you. And a whole lot of guys said, that sounds great, yeah, send me to the front lines. And then you know what their reward was after the war? They got put right back into the prison camps. If the media today stopped its attack on right-wing groups and ideas, like if the media stopped constantly attacking quote-unquote white people right now, how many white people would just forget about it and say, oh, that's okay, media, I love you now? Millions. The stage is set that as soon as they stop applying pressure to the right, to the white right, they're going to immediately have the loyalty of many grateful people who are willing to forget what has been done to them. And it's kind of pathetic. They'll be just like the Russians who were like, oh yeah, you threw me in this camp and you've been holding me here for years, but you say if I go fight for you, you'll give me my freedom? Gladly. You starting to see what I'm getting at? Like, I know people who say they're believers, but who think that they have a shot of turning their country into like a groyper heaven. Okay, so let me guess. You guys want to stop all the aid to Israel, stop all this stuff, and then you want to promote your Vatican 2.0, your Crusades 3.0 or whatever. And then you're going to go hog wild on a certain tribe. Well, you know, that 100% plays into end times prophecy. Don't be that way. Brian Denlinger explains this better, and he explained it better years ago, back in like 2014 or 2013 or something, or maybe 2017. But in his video about the coming satanic trinity, he was saying that this institution is not going to be kind of like a left-wing, fluffy, touchy-feely thing about everyone just uniting under one banner. No, it's going to be fairly fascistic. It's going to be nasty. But here I go, using the F word. This is why I said, leave your political associations and knee-jerk reactions at the door. Because I know there's going to be people who are going to say, well, if you don't want me to be a based conservative groyper, then what, you want me to be a liberal? No, man. But you're not going to defeat this situation by playing within one of its approved paradigms. The two-party paradigm, the two pincers of this attack, serve the same agenda. It's like the black and white tiles of Masonic floors. It is one thing. It's the two pillars of Masonry. It's one thing. You're not going to based and red pill your way out of this. And the people who are doubling down in that direction, man, there are going to be people killing people thinking they're doing it in the name of God, that they're doing a service to God, and they will be doing anything but. There are people that say, but Faceless, Q is very censored. The right is very censored. How can you say this if the media doesn't like us? Do you remember in the 80s with the RoboCop movie where it started to mainstream corporate dissidence, as in, whoa man, it's so cool to not like the system. Now come buy this product made by the system and get a feeling of validation as you become edgy, all while being completely within the system. We're seeing the same thing at play today with these paradigms. Yes, there have been people who promote Q that have been censored. People who promote the Groyper stuff, yes, they get censored. Yes, you get censored if you ask tough questions about Israel and AIPAC. But what is set by doing that? Well, if they don't want me to do this and they censor me for doing this, I'm just going to support Q all the way. I'm just going to become a hardcore Catholic Groyper. Buddy, I'm just saying, don't be so simple, okay? That's being played. That's what they want you to do. This paradigm is complicated, but it's also fairly simplistic. Yes, they set these avenues up to vector our thrust into it. The last thing the system wants is for you to not be invested in the system. You can think you're not invested in the system because you're in a group that gets called the bad guys, but you're still in the system. If you really want to be above it all or to be outside of it all, there is one way to do so, and you don't need any special buildings. You don't need anybody that you call father that's a man. You don't need any of this stuff. You don't need your holy imagery or crusades or any of that crap, okay? What I'm getting at is that there's a number of ways that you can reject God, that you can worship things over God. So I guess the most obvious way would be if you tell this stuff to someone and they reject it outright. Okay, you know, perhaps they aren't ready or will never come to the word of God and such. But there's another way. You can say, oh yeah, I believe 100%, and then still exalt the system with your actions. You can still worship things over God while calling yourself a believer by investing your time into them over God, by defying God's will by doing so. A lot of these people that are doubling down and investing into the system, they're being set up, man, and it's really, really bad. Look, Trump isn't the way. The Vatican isn't the way. Catholicism is not the way. For a long time now, I've seen how the globalist media works with Poland, and I still partially get resentful about it, because Poland is, very Catholic and very traditional, therefore it must be demonized by the mainstream. However, keep in mind the trap and dynamic I explained earlier. So how many people see that taking place and say, man, that's pretty awesome, I think I should be like Poland, I'm gonna buy into the Vatican and buy into Catholicism, I'm gonna cut my hair really short and put an armband on. Yeah man, homosexuality is wrong, so if I see a gay person, I'm gonna attack them. You think that's very Christian? I don't approve of that stuff, right? But that doesn't mean I want to go out there and start beating up gay people. It doesn't mean I want to beat people up in the name of God. That doesn't mean that we're supposed to become monsters or fascists or authoritarians. That is playing within the paradigm. I mean, how many times have you met people that are like, well, I believe the elites are evil, but I don't believe in God or anything above them. I just think we should overthrow the elites, but do so benevolently. Did the communists not say the same thing? Has every form of government not said the same thing? Have we ever broken out of this dynamic? No, because that's playing within the sandbox. I mean, there's a certain controversial figure who died in the 40s, who a lot of people think was awesome, because once they start digging into history, they see what was going on with his nation, and they know the names of the people who were behind this concept of a global communist takeover. The fact of the matter is, that guy was never going to be a savior for the world. Like I said, there's more than one way to defy the will of God. Well, that tribe that so many of us disapprove of today, God has his own plan for it. And in the end, a lot of them will actually accept Jesus. But to think that you could be doing the right thing by endorsing this guy from a long time ago, in the name of which a lot of atrocities were committed, man, that's missing the mark. That is missing the point. Big time. So what I'm saying is that, yes, the media, the globalist stage, it is attacking places like Poland. But by doing so, it promotes buying into Catholicism and the Vatican, which is a trap. Just like how if you look for Q stuff, it's not going to show up on the first Google results page or whatever. That's a trap. Just because you have to go 2 or 3 pages deep, or just because you have to look a little harder for it, doesn't mean it's actually censored. You know what they do when they really want to censor something? Right after 9/11, there was a couple of Israelis caught in Mexico who were following a whole bunch of politicians into a building, and these 2 Israelis were carrying like grenades and weapons on them. They were going to do some kind of false flag attack. That junk has been scrubbed from the internet. If somebody really wants to censor something, believe me, it gets censored. If you think your Q stuff is censored, it ain't. If you think your Groyper stuff is censored, it ain't. Another example of this kind of thorough scrubbing are the mainstream media articles from the early 2000s that were talking about how Trump was running around with this buddy of his named Jeffrey Epstein doing investments and such. That stuff has been scrubbed. You can only find information about it in archives, and I don't even know how accurate that is because I'm basing this off of research from over a year ago. How many people today who think that they're digging into the censored stuff by going to their Q site will sit there and tell you, Trump didn't have nothing to do with Epstein? Well, yeah, he did. It was just thoroughly scrubbed. But either way, the evidence and the obvious is right there for anyone who has eyes to see. Or look at the Groypers and the edgy Pepe profile pic people. They want to talk all day about Israel and they know all about that, but they sit there and support somebody like Trump. They still support the political system. Well, why? Because they're blind. None of that stuff is actually censored. Q or the Groyper stuff. I mean, it's censored in a way, but not genuine censorship. Now, does that mean you get to go and have a good time freely on Twitter? No, it doesn't. But think of the big picture here, homies. I don't tell you this stuff because I want to piss you off or I want the right to lose. I'm not telling you Q is a psyop because I want Biden to lead over us any more than any other jerk politician, okay? There's a reason I'm doing this. Because I see not only how the groundwork has been laid, but I see this stuff coming together. And I hope some of you do too. And I hope if you're someone who's on the fence, that these words reach you and that you start to consider what I'm saying. So thanks for watching, people. Until next time. Bye.